Hello, the recording you're about to listen to was recorded in Doylestown at the 2023 Doylestown Spiritual Banquet Conference hosted by the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, which meets at St. Paul's Lutheran Church every Saturday night, 8 p.m. food and fellowship, 8:30 speaker. Please look for us on YouTube at the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown and our Facebook page, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. Anyway, look forward to seeing you. Hope you enjoy these recordings. They were very powerful and lives were changed there. Please take advantage of them and share them with whoever you think could benefit from their talks. Thank you very much.
Am I doing 67 after lunch?
All one.
567.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started again. Please take your seats. My name is Nick. I'm an alcoholic. All of these talks are available on our YouTube page, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Hi, John. We also have a Facebook page, an excellent resource to get connected, stay connected, upcoming events, meetings, anniversaries. We have a sister group meeting every Thursday up the street at the Salem Church. It's a big book breakdown, 7:30 Thursdays. I have a flyer if anyone's interested in that. There's also a couple meetings in here. Mondays at 6 o'clock we do a step meeting in this room next door, followed by an Al-Anon meeting. The Genesis group of Al-Anon in this room right here, 7:30. And every day of the week, except Sunday, there's a 6 a.m. meeting in a room behind here. Just some information for you there. So let's go ahead and get started. Our next speaker, we have Peter M. to share his experience on steps 5, 6, and 7.
My name is Peter, recovered alcoholic. I'm grateful to be alive and sober and part of a sacred place called Alcoholics Anonymous. And first things first, thank you, Ron, for getting me up here and getting my wife up here to share, and to the trusted servants who did all the work in putting this thing together. If we could give it up for all of those folks for a moment. And I thank all the speakers who preceded me. They've done a great job. I know Craig Knoll is here somewhere, going to hold up index cards and tell me what to say over the next hour, wherever he is. And there he is in the back. I'm grateful to be here. It's been a while since I got up here. It was way before COVID. And so it's great to be back. The room looks great. And thank you so much. I appreciate this very, very much. And it's great to, be around some friends. I relish the times, as Marion said, when I get up here. I get to get out a lot, and there's certain spots in the country that I really like going to. There's certain spots out there that I say I can actually live here. There's a vibe to it. But Jersey, the Northeast, I just love getting up here. I wish it was about 40 degrees warmer because it's too cold. And but I really like getting up here. Back in November, we were at the Jersey Shore Roundup, and it's just a vibe. You walk in, and it's home cooking for me. So I thank all of you for being here. June 23rd, 1988, it was an 11 God separated me from alcohol. I'm very grateful for this gift of sobriety, very grateful to be a member of good standing in Alcoholics Anonymous. I have a home group. It's called Alcoholics and God in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I do have a sponsor, same sponsor Jimmy shares. Bob is on from St. Paul, Minnesota. I've had, over the years, I think about this often, or better yet, it just comes to me. When I have some quiet time and we get into some reflection, and one of the great things about it, having a contemplative, I can't say life, but moments of it, is things come to us that get away from the busy day, and it's a moment of reflection, and it's heartfelt. It's usually filled with much gratitude. And I think about where I have been and the folks I grew up with. I'm from Brooklyn. You can tell by the way I speak I'm not from Oklahoma. And the life I led, a sinful life, right out of the gate, a selfish and self-centered life. And the things I did as the direct result of my alcoholism, I landed in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I think about it, and if I can compare for a moment of what civilians do for life and what I get screwing up my life, I get a leg up. I get a head start. And further, the men, wonderful women were put in my life, the old timers, but men had their hands on me as far as growing me up in AA. And the sponsors that were put in my life, from my very first sponsor back in Brooklyn, who was very, very rigid. He was a bit of a bulldog. He barked a lot. But when the big book says we alcoholics are undisciplined, we let God discipline us to the simple way of living. I was willing to be disciplined. In fact, as recently as this morning, I still pray, God, please discipline me to the spiritual life, because I don't need the ego getting involved in my life anymore, although it does. But sometimes these teachers, like sponsors, are put there to be God's hands and feet and to hold me accountable and tell me things that I don't want to hear and hurts them to say, but someone's going to do it. And none of these men ever co-signed my nonsense when I got a little slippery. You know, my alcoholic mind, I justify inappropriate behavior, make it very appropriate, but if you did it, I'm going to be all over you and confront you on it, because I'm a big book thumper. And I can use that against other people. So I'm very grateful for that. And all my sponsors. And I've said this for a million podiums, and this is not to name drop. It's been on my heart for a while now to pay gratitude to these men. But I had wonderful sponsors, my current sponsor, even. But the man who changed my life and had me look at this book and this fellowship and this service and this AA as a whole, and even God, was a gentleman from Texas who was my sponsor for probably 10 years or so. And he was up in New York to visit, to do a fellowship of the Spirit many years ago. And I had a sponsor who had kind of gotten off the path a little bit. And I'm writing inventory. I've always written lots of inventory. I'm doing 10 and 11. And I would tell you I'm living in 10, 11, and 12. And from a mechanical standpoint, I was. If you watch me, you say, this guy's really in 10, 11. He's gobbling up spiritual literature. He's writing the inventory. And with all of that, and sponsoring people, with all that, I hit a wall. That wall we can hit in Alcoholics Anonymous, and we kind of go flat. And I can't feel anymore. And so what I do is I do more. I read more. I write more inventory. And I forget the pause button. And I was wound up tied in Major League Baseball. And it was baffling to me because I'm doing everything. I know I need a new sponsor. This guy's kind of gone sideways right now. And I don't want what he has to offer anymore. And I'm praying to God, please show me a teacher, because I'm tight. And now I'm sharing inventory with the men I sponsor. So God will use sometimes what looks like adversity to get us well. And so I learned how to share inventory with the men I was sponsoring. Why can't I? Well, my ego remerged so much I can't let them know what's going on with the sponsor. I hear Marion do that all the time with a sponsor. He says, here's where I'm at. And this guy showed up, Mark H. showed up in New York, and I said, he was staying at a buddy of mine's house, and I visited him alone, and I says, here's where I'm at. He said, I can tell. He said, you're tight, I can see it. I said, do you have room? Would you sponsor me? Like I was proposing all over again when you asked the sponsor. Will you be my sponsor? And he said, I've been waiting for you. And I'll tell you, we opened up the book, and none of my sponsors are line-by-line guys. If you're a line-by-line sponsor, that's cool. I mean, there's different flavors in AA. We have different influences. But he pulled some things out of the book and gave a lot of written assignments, and he was hardcore on inventory and living in 10, 11, and 12 to access that power, give it away, which will bring me through 1 through 9 again. And up until that point, I was a guy who went through the steps once, lived in 10, 11, and 12. That's what my first sponsor told me. So that's the rule. It's the golden rule. And I would bristle with antagonism when I heard people visiting the steps over and over and over again. I said, well, the big book doesn't say that. And my sponsors, you don't. And so I hold on to that. And what begins to happen, I begin to worship mechanics. I begin to worship the big book instead of worshiping the power that takes me through all of that. Worshiping the power that brought me to a sponsor. Worshiping the power that woke me up this morning. Worshiping the power that put friends in my life. Worshiping the power that told me what clothes to wear today. I mean, that's how it comes down to. And so Mark says we're going through the work again. I kind of got a little tight. And I'm one of those guys who can speak experientially on what it's like going through the steps once and living 10 and 11 and 12, and that's working for you. I'm not here to change it. Or if you've done that and hit a wall, I can tell you what it's like going through the steps annually. And the tremendous amount of freedom we get, how free we want to be. The freedom I'm seeking is not from me, not for me, but from me. So I thought, how free do you want to be? I said, well, I need more freedom. I do, but from me. I got free when I walked into Alcoholics Anonymous. I just never woke up to it yet. I began to get free when I started to go through the steps. I didn't wake up to it until later on. And the best freedom I'm going to get is getting far away from me, not far away from you. In fact, the further away I get from me, the more in touch I am with you. I'm not in the place of when you're speaking, I'm thinking of a real unbelievable answer. So you go home and say, that guy's great. Or when it's a closed discussion, it's a go-around, and I'm sitting there going, I got to come up with something because there's a lot of people here, so they asked me to speak at a conference. I don't care. That's getting free from me. If I'm looking to get free for me, I'm back to being selfish and self-seeking all over again. Alcoholism sneaks in, it disguises itself in great ways. I will use God as a weapon. I will use the big book as a weapon. To prove to you how spiritual I am, there's nothing spiritual about barking at someone. So I had these men put in my life, and I began to go through the steps the first time with Mark, and I was listening to Marion share, and it provoked some thoughts of the past, and I remember going through the steps for the first time with Mark H., and I hadn't done a fourth step yet. And they gave me a whole bunch of considerations. And one of the things he did, which Don would do, is it says, we thought well before taking the step, after the third step prayer, Bill threw a high and tight fastball in there. After 3 change-ups, he snuck that in. And right? And Mark sent me home to think about it. And I did the third step with him. And I began a fourth step. But I remember being on the phone with him, and I couldn't keep up with my words. I was going so fast. I said, Mark, I don't know how to explain this. I just feel like the fist of Gulliver reached down on my soul and pulled out all the poison. I haven't even started column 1 yet. I had been through the steps many years earlier. And just in this place, I felt reconnected. And when my assignment is step 5, 6, and 7, it talks about a new attitude and a new relationship with God. And here I was going through the steps, and he had given me considerations in 1, 2, and now 3. I was seeing steps 1, 2, and 3 almost for the first time. A different point of view. And as often said, we live life forward and understand it backwards is perhaps, I don't know for sure, perhaps the first time I was getting to touch how I like to live now with living with or hearing with the ears of the soul rather than the ears of the mind. I was seeing with the eyes of the soul rather than the eyes of the mind, and I was being from that place. And the soul is always right, knows where to go, what to say, what to do, and how to be. It perhaps the first time there was a shift. I didn't even do step 4 yet. And it was one of the greatest experiences I had. When I showed up to step 5, I was willing to unload everything, every dark cranny of my past, everything, because I had built that trust. This guy has the answer. I was a bum in the streets of Lower East Side of Manhattan. That's where I landed. Living in an abandoned building. A sinful life, an angry life. I wasn't a violent guy. I wasn't that guy. I wasn't the fighter. I wasn't a weapons guy. But I was just angry all the time. I was a tornado rolling through the lives of others. Most of all, I despised myself. And then I land in AA, and these type of men are put in my life. That's enough proof that there's something greater watching my life. And if he's watching mine, I know he's watching everyone else's. My point of view shifted on everything, which is a necessary ingredient if I'm really going to change. See, I was one of those guys, I gathered up lots of information. They were all big book mechanics. And they were pumping me with information. And their sponsor would give me information. But I got a lot of information. But now I'm getting anemic in the transformation department. The muscles are getting flabby because I'm relying on old experience to keep me current. That doesn't work. One of the things Mark would say, where are you currently? What's going on now? I don't care what you did 5 years ago. Sometimes we go to a talk. We hear a person in 1990, and we hear them in 2023. It's the exact same talk. What has happened? Where are you now? And Mark and all these guys are, what's going on with you now? Where are you with God? Maybe I'm missing God a little bit. Maybe I haven't written inventory. Maybe I don't pray much. That's not a judgment. I just need to expose what's going on and put the light in the dark spot. Because what my alcoholism wants to do is present a picture to you that I walk on water and have me believe I really do. When we look at 6 and 7, the mother of all the deadly sins is pride, which means I'm God. Which means if I'm God, and I don't articulate, I don't say that to you, but the inside, the feeling is I'm God. I don't need to do that, I give it to the new guys. I don't need to fold chairs anymore. I put my time into AA. That's slippery slope. I can do this. I can get away with that. I can make a guest appearance at an AA meeting and dip out early because I got other plans. That's slippery. My priorities are sideways, and my ego is giving me a beating, and I don't even know it. I'm always the last one to find out. I had a buddy of mine to say, we can't see our own ears. You can. I can't. And in June of '88, when I showed up to Alcoholics Anonymous, I had no clue about recovery after 7 treatment centers. And I joke about this, and it sounds like it's made up, but I had no clue who Bill and Bob was. 7 treatment centers. I knew how to identify my feelings. I'm good at that in treatment. I'm in the business for over 30 years. I'm only 18. The treatment center business makes me look this old. I know about the business. A lot of good people in that business. I joke about it. I knew Father Martin Chalk Talks were. I knew a lot about that stuff. I had no clue who Bill and Bob was. I was living in Minnesota, and they took us to this clubhouse, and they had 2 pictures, picture of Bill and picture of Bob. They looked like 2 feds. And I thought in my blue-collar mentality, they must be the union leaders of AA. They probably want a donation. Here comes the bad news, there's a donation going somewhere. And I have an uncle who says to me one time, he says, your dad told me you're traveling speaking now? I said, yeah, and they pay for this. Where do they get the money? Is when people make donations. He says to me, well, who's running it? Maybe I get you paid for this. He wanted to come to AA and shake down the AA group chairperson. And I says, just stay home. I'm doing okay. And I'm in this clubhouse, and old timer says, you saw me looking at the pictures. Those are our co-founders, the 2 men who started this. That's Bill and that's Bob. I said, okay. Well, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks goes by, and I'm sitting in that clubhouse. I got 30 days now. And the new recruits come into the sober house. I pull them, let me show you. That's Bill and that's Bob. That same old timer says, no, that's Bill and that's Bob. Yeah. I was about as sharp as a bowling ball. But I began the journey, and my first sponsor in Brooklyn opened up. I never forget it. I went to him earlier. He was working me a couple of days, and I says to him, his name was Tony, I says, they have all these 4th steps they're giving out. The Texas 4th step, there's Joe and Charlie one, and the Joey Bag of Donuts and Frankie Head of Lettuce one. If you're from Brooklyn, you'll get that. And they had all these pamphlets and all these columns, and I'll clean up the language. But he sat me down and says, what does this book say to do? That's what we're going to do. If you want that, that's fine. I can't sponsor you. I heard him. And we began a journey through the book. And my life has never been the same. It's a lot of peaks, some valleys. But the further I get away from me, the valleys get farther apart and they're not so deep. And I began to take a stand for what I believe in, even if it ruffles feathers. Because if I stop standing for what I believe in, I'll forget what I stood for. So I chop wood and carry water and do it this way. And I've been through the steps a whole bunch of times. And that's not a badge. That's not a stripe on my arm. It's just to let you know I'm one of those guys who like to go through the steps. I still share inventory with a kid. He's my age at home group. You know, I got an appointment this week to see if we can read some more inventory to him. I like doing that. I like the effect produced by it. But I didn't know anything about AA or alcoholism or what alcoholism entails, what this looks like. And I'm listening to all the narratives in the head. We could do that with double-digit sobriety, listening to all the narratives, and my thought life creates my current reality if I'm not careful. And depending on how spiritually fit I am, will determine what I'm going to do with all the narrative. Because my mind will convince me this is the way to go, and I follow that path, and it moves me further and further away, if you will, from God. Knowing we can never be separate from that power which you're actually connected to, but there's a feeling of separation from God because I'm following my path. I'm making the rules. I have a sponsor, I have a home group, I have a big book, but I'm still making the rules. I'm still playing God. And I pretend to you I love God, but I really am not interested in God because He interferes with my plans and designs. I'm not in a place of surrender. If you want to know what my belief systems are, just follow me around. Take a look at my actions. Listen to nothing I say. There's probably 20 other people who come up here and do this talk in this room. Or maybe 5. I watch too much Don Rickles. I'm sorry. Who? Newcomers just said, who's Don Rickles? Trust me, newcomers, we had the best music ever. Taylor Swift. I was getting drunk somewhere. My thought life creates my current reality. That'll follow me around. It'll affect my prayer life, my meditative life. It'll affect everything. And that noise gets so loud, I get so uncomfortable that I go back to that which always killed me, that's alcohol. And before I go back to alcohol, what I'll do is I'll start going on these sprees, because alcoholism goes underground and resurfaces in other areas. They're called sex sprees. Yeah. I do a lot of workshops like this. You know, those Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning things, maybe with someone else or alone. And usually Saturday after lunch, I'll get the guy. I didn't know what the look was then. I do now. And they walk over to you, and they're looking at their shoes. And they say, you got a man to talk to. I know exactly where this conversation's going. It's the sex department. They got a hidden sex life. And whether they're single or in a committed relationship, they're embarrassed. They're humiliated by what they're doing. And they think sex is the problem, but it isn't. It's a spiritual disconnection. Because that's what people like me or others do who are alcoholics. And the ego get all in front of that to cover up and justify, minimize, rationalize all of it, and make sure I look like Moses when I walk into the room to convince you I'm okay until I go home. And I'm running all over town. Or I'm sitting on my computer till hours at night watching things that if anyone saw me, I'd be mortified. Or it's a gambling spree. Or it's a fear spree. Or I can't control my anger anymore. Now I'm on page 52. And no longer being like a child in front of God. It says we have to be like children if we're going to enter the kingdom of heaven. Not act like children, be like children. Total trust, faith, and belief in something's going to take care of me. Believing in the impossible. I'm no longer there anymore. I'm consumed with me and my stuff. And it gets so bad, and spring gets so tight, that I will eventually now go back to the drink. Because I know that's the panacea. And it happens faster than I can't see my alcoholism turning a corner. You can. It just shows up. Suddenly shows up and I'm in serious trouble. And so I began a journey through the work, and I got to move along here. And I did, our speakers did great jobs on 1 through 4. What most of us do, I was one of them, is live in the second column. I'm angry with Joe for this, and that's about as far as I go. The discussions a lot of times in the meetings are second column meetings. Anyone want to share burning desire? Well, my boss did this, my wife, my husband, and it stays there. It doesn't go into column 3 or column 4. No one wants to go to column. The ego won't permit me to go into column 4 and say, I'm going to disregard what you did entirely, regardless of how wrong you are, and hold the mirror up to me. The ego is going to die if it does that. But what I need to do is continue to kill the ego and feed the soul. And the only one who's going to allow me to do that is God. Lots of times we think we find God at the end of the rainbow. I forget to realize that while I'm doing column 1, 2, 3, and 4, there's some power who's making me do column 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So the steps aren't so I keep me sober. It's the experience the power that's keep me sober all along. It's always been there. That power that I have, whatever I have of it right now, was with me in an abandoned building on June 23rd, 1988. This is when Jimmy talked about darkness and lightness. I was not, if you will, connected or felt connected to this power. I can tell you I feel that way now. It doesn't mean I'm more enlightened or further along down the road or better than anyone. It's just my experience with it. And being in that kind of light or feeling that, usually we're the last ones to know. It's manifested in me wanting to know more, wanting to experience more, and sitting home and reading and meditating and praying and helping others and having a servant's heart wherever I go. That's how I think I'm doing okay right now. I'm not hurting anyone. I practice fidelity to God, which allows me to practice fidelity not only in my marriage, but with my friends. Me and Jimmy don't hang out until something better comes. Oh, Jim, I got to go, and I'm going to go here. I just don't do that. My friends know that, and they're like that with me. That's living with the full heart, with integrity, and none of it comes from me but to me. If I continue to listen to the noises in the head, the narratives, and feed off the resentments of the past and live in the wreckage of the future, and I get consumed with that, I will never hear the invitation sent to me by God, which is go to that meeting and help that person. Don't do anything. Go back to school. I got you. Whatever. I'll miss all of his invitations because he's constantly sending out invitations. He's in constant dialogue, and I'll go so far as to say whatever you want in this room, including the civilians out there. The problem is no one listens. Very few of us listen. I got a friend from California. We were in Ohio together, and he said a bold statement. It took a lot of courage for him to say it. He says, most of us in AA say we believe in God. He says, most of us don't, based on our actions. Oh, want to give me a pocket full of money, an expensive cigar, a new car, a nice apartment, an A1A overlooking the beach. I'm very spiritual. Tell me this was a great talk. I feel really good about me. But through adversity, how am I doing? When the cupboard's bare, when the bank account's really not doing too good. I've had all of that. I still turn back to that power which I know will bring me through it. And this isn't about me. This is about showing God off, quite frankly. Because through this, I've had some adversity. We all have. Whether it's Park Avenue or Park Bench. That's what we want to talk about. How did I walk through adversity? If I'm living with me and I'm making the decisions, if I'm using me to discern, without going through this book, I'm in serious trouble because it's the old me with just 35 years on it. And alcoholism is not impressed with 35 years sober. Couldn't care. It really doesn't care. It's got my whole life to get to me. And so I finished step 4, and I'm just going to share a quick story about the value of this work. We write a whole lot. And Sarah's, I don't want to go over her talk, but we write a whole lot of stuff in step 4. Some of it's a few pages, some of us write a whole bunch. I know the very first time I did a 4th step, it was a lot. And all of it is necessary. Because God's given it to us. Every person I write is necessary. Every principle, every institution, the sex conduct, all the fears, it's all necessary. But what I have found out is very often, even though all of that's necessary, sometimes there's one or two pieces of the entire inventory that's going to unlock the gates of hell. I just don't know which one, and God's not going to tell me. Until I'm in step 5, and 6 and 7, and maybe 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Oh my God. I remember, this is why I'm here now, because of that one thing I shared. And all of it's necessary. In fact, we don't even write the 4th step. I mean, the pen's in the hand, but God's being the spiritual translator, if you will. Because when you do a 4th step, you know stuff. Where's this coming from? Guess what? God. So I'm going through the work for, I don't know what, a whole bunch of times I've been through the work, and I'm sitting with this gentleman out in Colorado who was sponsoring me for a while. And I'm going through the steps, and I'm doing the 5th step. And it says we've been trying to get a new attitude and a new relationship with our Creator. Now, God knows what's blocking me from Him, or further blocking me, the little stumbling blocks or the big boulders. I don't. And I can get so used to having a callus on my hand, I don't even pay attention to it anymore. And I shake someone's hand, and he says, "What's with the hands?" So I had callus, I had plaque on the sole. My sponsor calls it plaque on the sole. I'm not even aware of it. I'm feeling pretty good. Mark, you say, how free do you want to be? Pretty free, but you're not. And so I'm reading my 5th step to my sponsor, and I get to institutions. In a very matter-of-fact way, I might even say, even a cavalier way, I was getting a kick out of it. Resentment, I'm a Catholic. Resentment Catholic Church. And I read all my causes to him. No big deal. 3rd column, 4th column. By the time I get to the 4th column, he says, hold it, back up. That's sponsorship code for you're in trouble. Yeah. He said, back up. He's, how long you been nursing this grudge for? And I pushed right back. I said, well, Mickey, I mean, think about it. And I was telling him, he's a devout Catholic, still is, about all the headlines. A lot of us have read about religious institutions. The Catholic Church always gets slammed even when they're doing good. And it was my ammunition to push back. The wayward priest, all of that stuff. And he listened to me. And he said to me, let me ask you some questions, which is another setup. When the sponsor says, is it possible you coming out short on that? And he says, do you go to AA meetings? I says, of course I do. He says, every AA meeting a good meeting? I said, no. Are there 13 steppers? I says, yeah. He said, have you ever known someone to take a coin or a chip at an anniversary you knew was loaded? I says, yeah. At my first home group, it happened often. He says, but you keep going back. I says, yeah. And you practice love, tolerance, forgiveness, and acceptance to bring a solution. I says, yeah. He says, how come you can't do that with your church? And there was silence on the phone. I've told this a million times, this story. It was a turning point. We're at the turning point. I was at a turning point. It was another fork in the road. What am I going to do? If I continue to do what I've always done, I'm always going to get what I always got. And God says, here's something in the way. I read a whole bunch of inventory. It was one piece of inventory off my institution list. The rest of it may have been a wash. I don't know. But this was the thing. Now, I would go to my religious community on Sundays occasionally and take inventory. And they would sing the Lord's Prayer, which I thought was blasphemy. We don't do it like that in AA. And he says, seems you need to go make amends for your gossiping and slandering and all, and get right with this. And so I go to something called a confession. I sit there with the priest, and I swear to this day God put this priest in front of me, because if anyone's done that, it's pretty quick. You know, they don't talk a lot. They don't get to a conversation. There's 4,000 sinners waiting in line to basically get in. You know. And especially during the holidays, Catholics like to make our guest appearance. Like Jesus is going to go, I'm glad you got here. I serve now in my church. I serve them. It's wonderful. And I see the Christmas and Easter folks come in. They're like me when I show up. They don't have a clue what's going on. So I sit with this priest. He says, Father, I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. My last confession was, 300 years ago, and here's why I'm here. I need to make amends. And I told him my gossiping, slandering, my point of view on stuff, and he says, to the little screen, he says, I understand. So my head stopped spinning around, and he began to talk to me about where I was. And it was maybe a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes. But to me, it was a sermon that lasted. It was music. And I says, as part of my amends process, assuming he doesn't know this, I need to ask you, what can I do to make it right? And he says, can you come to Mass tomorrow morning? And he gave me some penance. I went outside, did my prayers. One service, one Mass, I'm off the hook. This is great. I love being a Catholic. But Mr. Big Shot from Brooklyn said, honey, will you come to Mass with me tomorrow? I was really nervous. Because I wasn't just going in because I felt like I had a job to do. And we went. It was 10:30 Mass, the bells are ringing, the weather was beautiful, and I see all these people. I would see these people walk in, but, not paying much attention to it. And they were going home in a sense. Families and singles and couples and old folks. It had I was looking at it differently. There was a shift in perceptions. Yeah? And I get in, I'm sitting in Sinners Row, the last row. I would not sit up front. I did that in AA when I first got here, the back row. And we do a little aerobics when we go. If you're a Catholic, we kneel, we stand, we sit, and we jump. I don't know what's going on, but they got to the part where they do the Lord's Prayer. And everyone held hands like we do in here, and they sang the prayer, and I thought it was beautiful. And Marion was to my left. I said, I can't look at her because she's going to see me crying. Can't do that. And I look over, she's crying. And we did the Lord's Prayer. I left there and I called my sponsor. Again, like I did with Mark, I was doing with Mickey. I couldn't talk fast enough. It was just that my chest was exploding. You can say it's happy, but sometimes I got to be careful with that word because I'll look for happiness in things that I think are going to make me happy and in things that are going to cause me trouble down the road. This was what Thomas Merton talks about. This was pure spiritual joy. That came out of step 5, 4 and 5. Or 1 and 2 and 3, and then 4 and 5. And then 6 and 7 and 8 and 9. It's all connected. I can't walk around today wearing yesterday's stuff because my mind does two things, before and later on. That's all it's capable of doing, and none of it's good. I'll have delusions of grandeur, or I'm the worst piece of garbage in the world, and I know tomorrow's going to look like this, and this is how we begin to play God. Lots of times we look at playing God, and I've done it. You need to do this inwardly. They need to do this, or outwardly, and I will tell you, but here's I can play God too. My eyes open up. Have you ever awakened first thing in the morning, your eyes pop open, and you're right in the middle of an argument with somebody who died 10 years ago? Or it does this. My eyes open up, I get awake, and I know what the day is going to look like today when I walk into that office. Or when I go to my group business meeting, and they want to change the format. I'm putting bullets in the chamber. It's 5:30 in the morning for the 8 o'clock meeting tonight. And all day long, I'm walking around, don't even get in my way. That's playing God. Because when I get that very same person, Pete, I thought about it, you're 100% right, we have to change anything. And then I'll say, see how wonderful God is. As an alcoholic, they should stencil hypocrite across my forehead because that's how I live. Because the mind is fickle. It never takes a stand for anything. It'll change from Moses to Rambo in 1 hour. So I did a fifth step. And I'm just going to pull from the book for a second and try to get into 6 and 7 so we can go have lunch. But, oh Lord. It says we pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. Now I go into step 5. Step 3, I made a decision. My life's none of my business, although at this point probably that might leave in claw marks and a lot of things. That's okay. The key point here for me, I've learned even currently, is how willing am I to be changed? How willing am I to go to any lengths? How willing am I to get free? Willingness is the key, including sitting with another person about to unload everything in 5. And so we go through the 5th step, and when we're done, we pick up the reading, and it says, once having taken this step, withholding nothing, only we know that, to take it to the grave stuff. And sometimes we'll call the sponsor during that hour time and say, you know what, I held on to this. It's usually the sex inventory stuff. We're delighted. We have our 5th step promises. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Now, as an alcoholic, I'm like this. The TV's on with no sound, but the radio's on. I'm on the phone smoking a cigarette, making dinner. I got a poker game in my kitchen going on at the same time because I need noise, because it distracts me from me. I can be alone at perfect peace and ease. And I've always shared the story. I remember the first time this happened for me, there was a Knick game on, and I sat down. It was an afternoon game, and I watched the entire game, sat through the halftime, had a little lunch, and the game was over. And when I got done, it dawned upon me, I just sat through about 2 hours, 2.5 hours for a basketball game. I didn't go to the phone, and I'd go outside to see what was cooking. I was alone at perfect peace and ease. And today I can tell you, for the most part, I'm okay in my own skin. I'm okay alone. I don't do it perfect. I like being around people. I like being on the phone with friends or my brothers and having a few laughs. I'm not stuff that's important. But when I'm home alone, I'm really okay. I'm just not lonely anymore. It says we begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. Our fears fall from us. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs. It's the infancy of it, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience, and the feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly, and we feel we're on the broad highway walking hand in hand. The spirit of the universe, the visual of that is I'm connected finally to God. There's been a shift. The mind is predator, the biggest enemy I'll ever face, is little by slowly dying. Will it ever go away completely? I don't know. But I don't listen to it as much. I had great cause to listen to it a few months ago because it was feeding me a lot of stuff. Self-pity, anger, blaming. My dad passed at the end of July. And the first thing that, after the shock of it, took about an hour, and the narrative started. Well, that's because of, and then we start firing people, picking people off. And then it all turned on me for my guilt. I should have done this better. I should have been there. And then I start shoulding all over myself. That's how quick that works. So I finished this hour quiet time. And those, by the way, those 5th step promises, I got to tell you, the first time through the work, that's where I was going with this, didn't happen after 5. None of it. Somewhere in 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, what they talk about in the 5th step promises, I began to feel and see different. It was a shift. And I could feel it, physically feel it. And I don't know what the heck was going on. I called my sponsor. He took me to the book. He's remembered back here in 5. It's happening now. And if that happens here, that's really okay. The point is it's happening, what has happened, and it'll happen again. And God doesn't say, that's enough for you. There's plenty to go around. But I go to an ocean with a thimble, and I come home with a thimble full of water. And I walk around Alcoholics Anonymous sound asleep, thinking I'm spiritually awake, and I'm dying in AA. When I first got sober, the first person I ran into was me. I don't like the effect produced by me anymore. And so what I'm supposed to do is go home for an hour. Now, if you're on social media, you see some of these cats going into the hour quiet time, taking a selfie, just did a 5th step. No earbuds, no nothing. The book is real clear about this. There's a reason why our book is saying go in for an hour quiet time. We don't need distractions. You got enough distractions. I really feel bad for young folks coming into AA because there's a lot of distractions. There's 4,000 social media networks, and we believe all of it to be true, and that's where you get our current events from. God's a bad word out there right now. I don't know how that happened. I got an idea. And so young folks come in way beyond agnostic, bombarded with a lot of social media, just nonsense, and come in here, and we come from a completely different angle, and we got to remove even more than maybe when I came in. But I get this hour quiet time to just me and the boss. And I thank God for the bottom of my heart that I know him better. I may not feel it yet, but that's what I'm supposed to do. So I follow the instructions, and I go quiet. Sometimes there's just an hour quiet time to reflect. Read the first 5 proposals, been thorough on everything. Yes, yes, yes. Haven't snuck something through. Okay, keep moving. I had one incident happen to me in 6 and 7 where I began to feel very uncomfortable physically. I start to question God, AA, my sponsor, everything. I got so uncomfortable with it. I start to feel like I was coming down with the flu. I don't know what the hell was going on with me. And I called my sponsor, and I says, Mark, here's what's going on. He says, sounds to me like you're having an experience, and hung up the phone. Jimmy talked about Silky walking in on Bill. Didn't try to interpret the experience for him. Mark knew exactly what was going on with me. He called me later that night and broke it down. Death of self is successful living. It feels like we're dying. In a sense, we are to self before the physical death. I couldn't make that happen. I can't orchestrate that happen. I don't know if it'll ever happen again. But the impact has changed my life. While that was going on, I was married at the time, and my ex-wife was on a 4-day drunk disappeared. And as much as I knew the marriage was over, I wanted to call 911. It's a missing person. I don't know where this woman is. And that Sunday she came home in the same clothes she left the house on Thursday, reeking. Now, if there was any other day, there would have been a discussion in that living room. Because of my male pride, had to take a stand for this. And when she walked in the door, there was no argument. It was pity. I knew the marriage was over, but I was looking at her differently, like a drunk walking in the door. This is what we do. We destroy everything when we're at the victim of alcoholism, and she just blew a marriage. Has been coking it up and drinking it up for the last 4 days with God knows who. Time to pack my bags and move. And it was you know how you go through that thing. Anyone's been divorced. I think the only requirement for membership AA is a divorce. But we know what that feels like. A few minutes on 6 and 7 here. Assuming we've been thorough. It says if we can answer, we're going to look at step 6. If we can answer to our satisfaction, we look at step 6. We emphasize willingness as being indispensable. To our satisfaction, not the sponsor. The book is assuming I'm on a different path right now, that I'm getting connected with God, that I can rely on that intuitiveness or the soul. We look at step 6. Emphasis is willingness is absolutely required here. Can he now take them all, every one? Am I willing to let God remove the things I consider objectionable? Yes. I don't know every one, but I stand willing to you to clean house on me once again. And I'm not in a place right now where I'm so afraid of what God's going to bring me to, I hold on to the only thing I know. We can do that. I'm afraid of I want to change, but not that much. I want you to trim off the dead leaves, but don't uproot me. I don't want to move. I don't want to switch careers. I don't want to have new friends. I don't want to get out of this toxic relationship. I just want to be comfortable. Can we do that? God says, absolutely not. You work for me now. It's kind of ugly to say, but we need to be gutted. Well, I did the first 5 steps. God says, yeah, I know. We just started. I got to continue doing this, or you're going to start to go backwards and die, because I can get away from step 1. I know we go through the steps and we kind of move away from step 1 on the shades, but we can get away from step 1. It doesn't apply anymore based on my actions. Am I still willing to be changed? Can he now take them all, every one? Is my God, do I believe my God's big enough to do this? And if I think I need a bigger God, I don't. I just need a smaller me. Can he take them all? Do I want him to take them all because they're going to go? Or I'm still holding on to something because Bill talks about the hole in the donut. I'm still going to hold on to this just in case. You never know. If God screws up, I got me. My sponsor said celibacy till further notice, but I'm going to keep Mary's phone number. Just in case. Or Bill's phone number, whatever it is. That kind of stuff. Am I willing to be completely changed? Can he take them all, every one? It kind of looks like this as well. I'm walking into a meeting, and Ron sees me walking in, and I got a case of big books. The keys are dangling from my mouth, and I got the coffee pot here, and I'm stumbling, and everything's falling. Ron says, let me help you with that. I got it. I'm the hero of the group. I got it. Keys back in the mouth, the stuff under the arms, and I trip and fall again. This goes on 3 or 4 times, and Ron says, can I take something off you? Are you done? That's what this is telling me. Can he now take them all, every one? Are you done running your life again with these defects? My alcoholism doesn't come in a bottle of whiskey. I'm not drinking. I'm not okay. I'm not okay, and I'm not drinking. I'm way beyond restless, irritable, discontented. I'm a raw nerve. I know what you're thinking about me, and it's not good, and I'm judging you all the time. I will greet you with a handshake and walk away, go, he's a fool. I start to hate the very power that brought me here because he's not working on my terms. In fact, when I pray, I'm trying to get God to change his point of view rather than going to God to be changed by him. Everything has shifted. Can he now take them all, every one? I hope he does. If we're in a place saying, God, you've got to do this, that's humility oozing out of my pores. If I sit there, oh, God's got it, I'm not worried about it. A little arrogance there. I pray he does this. He's got to do it. I have nowhere else to go. It's once again, I'm at the jumping off place, the fork in the road. If God always does it, by the way. He's merciful God. We know about God's power. We talk about it in rooms all the time. We know he's a righteous God. But we know that. But how often do we go to God for his mercy? And I speak for myself. I think the thing that's held AA together, we got God's love, we got God's power. It's really his mercy. Because you put us together, we will ruin everything. Jimmy says go left. Well, no, we're always going left. Just for the hell of it, I want to go right. And the group falls apart. How many groups we know have come together, flourished, and fall apart? It's God's mercy saying, listen, these people aren't that well with 40 years sober. I'm going to show them mercy and make them work together because they got nowhere else to go. And so very often when it comes to 6 and 7, let me rephrase, all the time when it goes to 6 and 7, I go to God on bended knees in a place of surrender asking for mercy because I cannot fix me. Here's my defects. I know this is the defect. And I can try to will myself through it, and all I do is act out some more. The more I think about it, the more I'm doing it. I need to lay right at God's feet. Because when we're standing in front of God, there's no peaks and valleys. There's no upper echelon. There's no first class and coach. It's all the same. And so I go to God with my stuff and say, here it is, what I'm aware of, not knowing all of it. If I'm in that kind of willingness, that place of willingness, I can freely say the 7-step prayer, which looks a lot like the 3rd-step prayer. It's almost an extension of it, except they slip in. Bill puts the amen because for now, the body of work of going in is stopped. To a degree. For now. Because he's prepping me to go out there and do 8 and 9, enhance in 10, 11, and then give it all away in 12. We look at the first half of the 1st step and the middle of the 12th step. That's what we do. I'm an alcoholic. I'm in serious trouble. I get better and I go pass it on. Quickly, pride, identical defects of character, shortcomings. To me, I was taught this, comes down to the 7 deadly sins. Pride, I'm God. No one should see me this way. You ought to treat me that way. And when I'm looking at life through this stuff, I have bad vision. Which means I can't hear right, and it's going to lead to bad actions, and I don't even know it. When it starts to rain heavy, I put the windshield wipers on because I can't see unless they're cleaning it off. I need God to do that. Anger insists I'm right. The other one, anger. Anger insists on controversy, backbiting, gossip, tearing someone down. Self-righteous anger, Bill talks about in the 12 and 12. It's a roadblock to reconciliation. They owe me an amends. I've learned, especially with the passing of my dad, it was just another kind of up the ante a bit about how quick life is and how fragile it is and how precious it is. And if I think you owe me an amends, I'm going to come to you anyway. If there's stuff going on, I need to fix that because we may never see each other again. Can't do that. I'm going to take the lead here. And the only thing that feels kind of icky about it is my ego. Now I just touched my ego. I can't go to Joe and say, let's fix this. I went to some really, what we'll say, a popular circuit speaker. And I was somewhere in Florida, and I went to him to clear the air. And he looked at me, and he accused me and went, and walked away. I said, so much for all your CDs and tapes. I throw them in the trash now. I just saw you going live. What you say behind the podium is nonsense. Need to do that. Gluttony. I'm an alcoholic. I'm gluttonous. More. I'll take more of it. But you're throwing up. That's okay. Give me more. Only alcoholics get with drinking, going to the bathroom, and puke, come back to drink some more. Gluttonous. I need more of everything. And I will take from you. Greed. Same thing. I could be that way at work. I'm going to undermine you so I get the promotion even though I'm making lots of money. You know, it's interesting how this stuff hides. We see somebody who always looks like they're in great shape. They go to the gym or CrossFit, they're shredded, they look great. They're eating good, their clothes, when they dress, you just say, boy, they look great, he or she, what are they doing? And then you go to sponsor them. And you're thinking, I want to be like that, and you sponsor them, you get close to them, and you find out that the defect called vanity is driving them to do. They have to do that way and do all that work. They have to. Or you see the guy who's always got lots of money on him, he has 2 jobs, or she has 2 jobs, and you say, wow, they're go-getters. They always have money, they're always working, they got 2 jobs. How do they do it? I need to be like them. I need to get off my butt and do more of that. Then you get close to them to sponsor them, and you find out greed is driving them. No matter how much money they have, they need more. They're driven. I will steal from you for greed. Envy. I count your blessings instead of mine all the time. I take credit for something that has been given to me, and I boast rather than giving credit to God. I covet in a place of envy. When I was much younger, I was drinking, and I was in some serious trouble right before I got thrown out of my dad's house. I'm going to say it was early, mid-'80s maybe. And my middle brother got a job. He was the college, white-collar guy. That guy. I hate those guys. You know, they get drunk and go to work the next day. I don't understand this, how you do that. But he was a good kid. He went to school. He got a job on Wall Street, a big firm. And Christmas rolled around. And this is, like I said, no later than the mid-'80s. He came home. He was so excited. He got a $25,000 Christmas bonus. That's good money now. Back then, it was a lot of it. My family's blue collar. We never heard of this. My dad was elated. My youngest brother was, they were hugging. Let's go out and get drunk tonight. Let's celebrate. My dad poured a drink, made a toast to his son. It was a big thing. My dad called his brother, my grandparent. It was a big thing. My brother John got a $25,000 bonus on Wall Street. He's going to be president next. I'm torn up from the floor up. And instead of me going to my brother and saying, I'm proud of you, I went, congratulations. And in here, I hated my brother. I was so envious. I was so jealous. I was so angry. Well, he went to school. He had all the breaks. What about me? That's envy. And he should give me some of that. I'm his older brother. I paid my dues. I looked out for him, and it just went on and on and on and on and on and on. That's envy. That's a horrible place to be. I can be that way sober. Lust. We all know what lust is. We're alcoholics. I mean, you know how it goes. This unsatisfied thirst for more sex. take me down dark alleyways, take me to getting addicted to porn, infidelity. It goes on and on and on. We can talk about that, do a workshop on that. What about lust for power, property, and prestige? I have to be the big shot in AA. I want to be famous in an anonymous program. Lust for power. You know, we work, Mike and I say work together, and I'm going to get, he's not getting in my way. I will go to the boss and make stuff up so I get the promotion. Lust for power. We look at politics and politicians. I wonder how many of them really want to lead and do good or just have a lust for power. They need to be the man. They don't care about anybody else. They got to be behind that desk. Got to be called the CEO. And it goes on and on and on. Lust for power, lust for money, property and prestige, sloth. I'm lazy. I sit around all day expecting to be in shape. I don't even open up an envelope because there's too much energy. Going from the living room to the dining room is like all the way over there. What about spiritually slothful, though? I just lay around expecting this 12-step experience to happen while I'm, watching Netflix all day and all night. I haven't prayed in a week, but I'll get to it. I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know. I'm good. Spiritually slothful. That'll slip right in. And so suddenly I'm in the middle of one or all of these 7 deadly sins, and I'm wondering why I can't connect. I want control of everything, failing to realize I have no control. It'll be involuntarily shouted by God from me. Now, just a quick story, and we'll get out of here. About being slothful, expecting things to change, like some big company's going to call me and say, we saw you just vegging out on your couch for the last 6 months. You want to be president of my company? We see the potential in you and wanting the potential, an outcome my way. So I heard this story. There's this guy laying on the couch day in and day out. Not going anywhere, just laying around the couch. Tomorrow I'll get in shape, and tomorrow I'll go back to church, and tomorrow I'll start to pray, and tomorrow, and tomorrow's today, and it's too late. He's just laying around. His life's going nowhere. And one day he opens up his eyes, and the Lord is standing in front of him. And he says, "What are you doing?" He knows God sounds like he's from Brooklyn, by the way. But he says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Lord, what are you doing here?" And he says, "I've been watching you. You're doing nothing." Guy drops to his knees and kisses God's feet. He says, "I'll do anything." He's okay. He says, "What I want you to do is something for me." He says, "Anything, God." He says, "Tomorrow morning I'm going to put a big boulder in front of your doorway." He says, "I want you to get up bright and early and start to push that rock." He's done. Next morning he wakes up and remembers, opens up the door, there's a boulder, he puts on his sneakers, starts pushing this rock. Sun up to sundown. Next day, same thing. Does this for like 90 days. On the 91st, 92nd day, Satan shows up. When he wakes up, Satan's standing in front of him. He says, "What are you doing?" He says, "The Lord told me to push this rock." "The Lord? What's the matter with you? God's a liar who'll make you work hard and give you nothing. Stop it. You've been pushing for 90 days. It hasn't moved an inch." She says, "You know what? You're right." Goes back on the couch. You know who shows up the next day? God. He says, "I thought I told you to push the rock." He says, "Lord, not for anything." You told me to push that rock. I've been pushing for 90-something days. It hasn't moved an inch. And God says, "I told you to push the boulder. I didn't tell you to move the boulder. That's my job. And what I want to do is lay around, live life on my terms, and expect the results that I want, failing to realize who I work for." God has given me, and many of us in this room, lots of tasks that were arduous, that were painful, that were inconvenient, that were uncomfortable. And we're saying, where are we going with this? Why am I doing this for? Why am I hearing another 5th step? They're all getting drunk. What is going on? I keep chopping wood and carrying water. Because what God is doing is bringing me closer, if you will. There's no proximity, but it sends more into the light. And all these things are necessary. And what I've watched over and over again, we plant seeds where we go. Hopefully they come to fruition. We plant seeds. We go to a meeting, give a talk, speak the truth. Someone in 5 years comes up to you and says, "I heard you give a talk 5 years ago. You changed my life." We were completely unaware of it. That's what we get to do. I need to be freer of those defects. I can't say free because I don't know if I'll ever be free. They go dormant. I only could do as good as the light I'm standing in. I'm able to have better relationships. I love my I appreciate my relationships. And I get to show it the way God allows me. I'm not the most outspoken guy. I'm not the guy to jump on a table and start dancing around and running around. I'm not that guy. But those close to me know where they are with me, and that's important. So I live clean. I woke up this morning with no regrets about yesterday. I woke up this morning next to the woman I adore. I said, "This is a good day. I'm going to see some very special friends. This is even a better day. I'm going to go give an AA talk today." What a life. So I chop wood and carry water. That's all I got. Peace.
Thank you, Peter. That was an amazing talk, and it's been an amazing morning. If you care to join us, we will like to adjourn this with the Lord's Prayer. If you care to join us on this one, to close this meeting out and get to those good eats. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom,